This video is about Buster Murdaugh and here's Stephen Smith that was murdered in 2015. Well, it's a homicide case. And the rumors going around, we can all speculate, which is all good in that. I was watching a clip from BHB where she told her audience that Buster is a prime suspect in Stephen's murder. What I want to know, where did you see that? Because I went and looked. I cannot find it anywhere. And I just think it's wrong to put that kind of information out there, but she don't care, as we all know. Let's let someone get hurt before we know anything. So I did my own research, and I'm going to show you here and some other clips I'm going to throw in here just because. Okay, this letter here is from Stephen Smith's mother to the FBI, and I'm not going to read it word for word because it's 4 pages long. There's just some things I want to point out. This was dated September 28, 2016, and he was murdered on July 8, 2015 in Hampton County, South Carolina. Now it says here, investigators determined he was beaten to death. He was attacked so violently that his entire side of his face was rebuilt with putty for his funeral. Investigators asked us at the time to continue to publicly say it's a hit and run. They claimed they didn't want the killer to know they were looking for him. There have been named no suspects. Keyword, no suspects yet. Okay, and as I have read through this stuff here, everything saying it's Buster is coming from all different people that were with him that night, they say. That person talked to this person, and let's see. Within days of our son's death, Stephen's twin sister Stephanie was approached by multiple peers telling her that Solicitor Murdaugh's nephew was responsible. Okay. And then let's see. A guy named Chris said that he experienced it, that he was with her, or Buster, but Buster threatened to kill him if he gave out any information to investigators. Okay. Let's see. And then it says the murders are probably the most prominent family in Hampton County. Stephen had more on one occasion mentioned to his friends and his sister that he was involved romantically with someone from a prominent family in the county who was hiding his sexuality. He said that it would shock people to know this person. We suspect that this could be the young man Stephen was referring to, and she's talking about Buster. So, and then she talks about Buster selling his car, okay, and about a schoolmate of Buster's little brother, Paul, was telling people at the school, and there's so much more. But I'm just trying to get to the point that, you know, this person said, that person said, because BHB said prime suspect. I haven't found anything yet saying he's a prime suspect, okay? And I hope this mother gets justice for her son. So why not go to the source, right? South Carolina law enforcement. So I read through this here to see if Buster's name came up. Do you know what? Nobody's name came up. They aren't talking about any prime suspect, okay? Nothing. It says here, investigation into the death of Mr. Smith was never closed. It remains a homicide. It's active and ongoing. And they said the goal is to find out how Mr. Smith died and find the person or persons responsible for his death. So they're not naming anybody here. So call 803-737-9000 if you have any info. So my point is here, don't put out misinformation. You get people hurt that way. And you should know that, BHV, or don't you care? And here's a GoFundMe for Stephen's mother to pay for an autopsy and investigation. And here's a statement from Buster. I have tried my best to ignore the vicious rumors about my involvement with Stephen's tragic death, to continue to be published in the media as a grieving over the brutal murders of my mother and brother. I love them so much and miss them terribly. I haven't spoken up until now because I want to live in private while I cope with their deaths and my father's incarceration. Before, during, and since my father's trial, I have been targeted and harassed by media and followers of the story. This has gone on too long. The baseless rumors of my involvement with Stephen and his death are false. I deny any involvement in the death, and my heart goes out to the Smith family. I'm requesting that the media immediately stop publishing my defamatory comments and rumors about me. So that's Buster's comment. Take it all you want, people. Misinformation I hate. It could be anybody, not just Buster. Okay? All this misinformation gets people hurt, can get people killed. So I hope Stephen Smith's mother gets justice for her son. Good looking kid. And with that, I'm going to play these clips.
Justice for Stephen Smith, Alex. Buster's next. Your son is next, Alex.
A heckler directing a sinister message at Buster Murdaugh, right there, the surviving son of the convicted killer Alex Murdaugh, as questions surround his involvement, alleged involvement, in the death of a classmate in 2015.
Good to see you again, Counselor.
Good evening, Chris.
Help me understand the affirmative step of putting out the statement that Buster Murdaugh did when you know, as a savvy practitioner, it would certainly fuel a news cycle.
Well, the situation that Buster found himself in was the longer he stayed quiet, the more this story got legs. And he struggled over time as to whether coming out and denying the obvious that he had no involvement in Stephen Smith's death would just give oxygen to the flames of the story. It appeared to us that it was going to continue until he put a stake in the ground and said affirmatively, unequivocally, I had nothing to do with Stephen's involvement personally or in his death. And so from this point forward, anyone who's reporting and putting Buster's picture adjacent to Stephen Smith's face when there's stories of exhuming his body is doing it at their own peril, because it's clearly defamatory, and that's the stake we put in the ground today.
I understand the sensitivity. I do not think that it is by definition defamatory, because all you have to do to be fair is to say which Buster Murdaugh denies. He has denied any involvement in this situation. And then you can report whatever your organization deems fit to print or say on air. This doesn't end people asking questions and speculating about what may have happened to Stephen Smith, especially given what I'm sure we would both agree on are very curious circumstances of a so-called hit and run.
I'm not directing my comments to News Nation, Chris Cuomo's show, or the responsible journalist, but there is a significant amount of vile information, spewing information, absolutely defamatory information linking Buster to Stephen Smith's death. Now, are Stephen Smith's death suspicious? Was it a hit and run, or was it a intentional murder? I mean, Ms. Smith is entitled to those answers. And if anyone knows grief and can share grief, it's Buster Murdaugh. It shares similar grief as Ms. Smith. I mean, there's no greater grief than losing a child, but I can tell you there's probably no greater grief than losing a mother and a brother to a brutal murder. And this is not about Ms. Smith. This is about Buster Murdaugh trying to move forward and live his life in private without having to defend himself, or he's having a difficult time getting a job. He's having, he wants to move forward, and he is being totally harassed, and this story just keeps getting in the way of his life, and it's time for that to come to a close.